What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the NerdGen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, Marvel has been on a tear with news, some good, some bad, some like, oh, whatever. But the number one thing that has been on my mind, Brian, I have to say that it's been on my mind when I think about it because of the horror shows that we've had in the past. The attempts at bringing the Fantastic Four to life hasn't been the success of other superhero films. In the hands of Marvel, and this is one of the things that we've talked about in the past with other properties that weren't in the hands of Marvel, that what would Marvel do if they had it? This Fantastic Four trailer, I wanted to do a trailer reaction, but I couldn't wait because I caught FOMO. Everybody's been talking about it. So I've been ever since it was released, I've been watching it quite a few times just to see all the things I needed to see. Obviously, I went over to Emergency Awesome, New Rockstars, all those guys that dedicate the time to break this stuff down. But my initial reaction to the Fantastic Four trailer is something very interesting that we're going to get into. The Jurassic trailer we're going to talk about, that came out this week as well, right?
Day after, yeah. And
tons of Marvel news, Black Panther, X-Men, casting updates for those two films, Capful, the Wolverine tie-in. I don't know what to think about it, but we'll get into that. Deadpool Creator goes off on Marvel and Feige. I read a little bit about that. I'll tell you why I kind of have a sense of it being possible that they were treated that way. Blade, Armor Wars, Moon Knight, which is surprising. I haven't read anything about that. And Loki updates. Fantastic Four trailer. What did you think, Brian?
It's all about the look.
Yes.
I mean, it's all about the look. I'm sorry. Like, and they understand it because like the first couple shots you get of like the Baxter building and like you get that little kind of 1960s Buck Rogers-ish sort of, white, kind of, and the way they're shooting it, the almost old school Technicolor look to it. That's the majority of just making me feel interested, excited. Obviously, the movie's got to be good, but I'm saying like that alone, I think, is such a departure from what Marvel has given us that I think it really gets me fired up. And then, I think by and large, I was pretty happy with the visuals. I know there's people, we'll get into like what people are nitpicking, but by and large, considering this is a group where we've seen some pretty bad outcomes in the past, I was reasonably happy with the Thing. I was reasonably happy with the Torch. I have one not sure yet on the effects, but then of course, the tease of Galactus looks like Galactus. I'm like, okay, like I don't know if I will love him being in this film still, but the helmet looks great from the back. So I was generally pretty happy with what we saw. I think people are buzzing. We'll get into how much they're buzzing. I remain cautiously optimistic that this will be a nice off-ramp or on-ramp, if you will, to something a little new for Marvel to work with going forward.
MCU 1.5. We haven't gotten to 2.0, but it's 1.5 or 1.2, whatever it is. But I agree. The score is amazing.
Yes.
That score, fantastic. That was beautifully done.
Yeah.
Excellent. I would say that the only things that I saw and sort of questioned was the Thing. There's someone attached to this film that worked on The Incredibles. I forget the person's name, but it reminds some of the shots here, especially when we got to the Thing, reminded me of an updated Incredibles sort of look in terms of that style, the colors. It looked a little bit animated, but whatever, right? But it still looked great. This looks comic book accurate. If there's still any connection with James Gunn and the people over there, there seem to be, they have been inspired to follow that path and not deviate too much. Let's see. One of the things I was questioning was his voice. The Thing's voice. And the reason why I say that is because in the past, he has been portrayed a bit differently, obviously. Even in the cartoons, even in the cartoons. Forget about live action, even in the cartoons. And the reason why I say that is because, and this is me being nitpicky again, I'm not quite sure if his rock transformation translated to his internal organs.
Yep.
Hence why perhaps you would get this more, a different sounding voice for that character, but they kept it the same.
Yeah.
So let's see. But outside of that, I agree with you. The visual effects look different. I would say the juices of excitement are creeping up. And I'm getting more and more excited for this. And I don't know if we're going to get, are we going to get a Fantastic Four trailer for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it'll be a pared down version of what you just saw. So both Fantastic Four and Jurassic will have commercials. But my understanding is you probably won't see anything different than what you saw in the full. Yeah.
Okay. Why that choice? I don't understand that.
They want to. I think the idea is they want to jump the publicity ahead of the game. Those two movies wanted to kind of grab a little bit of the zeitgeist before, because in the Super Bowl there'll be probably 7 or 8 different movie ads and clips, right? And even Marvel has like Thunderbolts. Like they have a couple of. So this was like a concerted effort to place these two projects, which are coming out 3 weeks apart in July, front and center. And obviously we know Superman's kind of trying to do something a little similar with the Puppy Bowl, although that's also code in my mind for they want to save money. And isn't the Puppy Bowl, the channel the Puppy Bowl's on, isn't that part of Warner Brothers too? So I think that's also a factor as well. So there's all sorts of angles to try to differentiate, but that's why. That's why they did.
Yeah. So what's the buzz?
The buzz is very good, but I think it's interesting. So if you look at the view count as one measure, the immediate aftermath, the 24-hour view count, 202 million sounds good, solid. But then you consider Superman was 250, so they didn't generate the same buzz as Superman. And then for legacy projects like Deadpool and Wolverine is the biggest one of the last year, that was 365 million. So obviously that's established, so you would expect it would be a bit higher. But it kind of shows you like people are liking what they saw, but aren't necessarily like, they did this. I don't know if you saw this. They did this countdown to the trailer release.
Yes.
Kind of like Superman did, but they did it like with Fantastic Vision, and like they did a nice job of like making it in the 60s. It kind of shows you that people were like a little more lukewarm. And I can't tell if that is fantastic for the property, like people saying, I've seen this already, and there's kind of like some Suicide Squad-y, like, I don't need this again. Or is that just Marvel in general just doesn't matter as much unless it's something like Deadpool and Wolverine, and therefore anything Marvel just isn't going to buzz as much as it would have, pre-pandemic.
I tend to agree with the second one.
I do too.
I think the Marvel name has lost a lot of people. And lost in a sense of faith and quality in a good story and a good time. So hopefully this doesn't fall under the umbrella of the Bumblebees, the Transformer One, the good stuff that people sort of now ignore. So I tend to believe is that. But I think after the movie comes out, the word of mouth will take over, and the drop off of the second week won't be crazy. And I think it'll have some momentum because of the possibility of how much better this Fantastic Four is as to his predecessors, and the excitement I think that it will create in not only us, the MCU fans, but in younger people because of how this looks and how cool things are in this movie. So I think this is going to be a successful movie. I think we'll talk about perhaps a little bit later in this conversation about whether it's going to hit $1 billion. But do you want to get into some of the things we saw in there that sort of Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby? What did you think of that?
Yeah, so let's start with, I guess we could start with, the characters. So Pascal is Reed, notably the only member of the team which we don't see his powers.
Yes.
Correct? We don't see him stretch. We see everyone else. We don't see him. interesting choice. We do see him with what everyone has latched onto, the multiversal bridge on the chalkboard, and he's kind of being, genius Reed working away. I'm still TBD. Like, the part where he's on the chalkboard was the part I liked the most, because he was kind of just in the character working away. I guess I don't know I don't have the context for the dinner scene. I know the dinner thing is a big Fantastic Four sort of callback to the comics, because they did always have dinner. Yeah. I think weekend dinner was like a thing the comic books featured, so that's why he has that scene. What I couldn't tell was he's clearly on TV of some kind delivering that little monologue, and it felt very stilted. But then I was like, is it stilted because he's awkward about being a celebrity and being on TV, or is it stilted because that's the way Pedro Pascal is going to play it? So if it's the latter, then I'm kind of like, I don't know that I love that as my read affect. If it's the former, then I just don't know anything. And it's kind of, he's putting on a show for the public, and that's not what he's going to be like behind the scenes. Because he's better in the scene in bed where he's talking to Sue about what happened. Yes. He's better there. That's kind of where I was like, okay, I can sort of see it working. But I'm still sort of a question mark. Yeah.
I'm at where I said it was going to
You're in. I know you're in.
Pedro Pascal is an actor, and he is going to transform into this character. And so far, I mean, regarding the not seeing his powers, we've seen it before. We know what it's going to look like. Kind of. There might be some ways that they show how he uses it for different scenarios that might be like, oh, snap. But in terms of how it looks, I don't know if it's going to be anything that different.
Okay, but do you like how it's looked and been used prior, right? So the Jon Gaffrud, and then Miles Teller, and then the John Krasinski cameo, which most people didn't like. Do you like how the stretching effect has been shown? I guess is the real question.
Stretching effects, how is it? To me, I can't visualize. I can't visualize it to the point of, oh, this will look dope. For me, it's more how he uses it. It's almost like flying.
Yeah, fair. I just wondered if it was a nod to, I think people have found this challenging in the past. Like the reception to how it's been used and the reception to how it's looked, I think people have kind of been mixed. And so I do wonder if almost like maybe it's not quite finished yet. Maybe they're still working on it in post. Or maybe it's one of those they just want to save because they feel like they've got some cool set pieces involving the stretching power. So that was number one. Part of my thing, though, in fairness to Pascal, is that I think Kirby's just better. And I think her little bit in this trailer underscores the fact that she is Sue. Everything from the looks that she gives with her eyes to the way she says as a family with passion. This is the character. I'm sorry. This is the one you're going to walk out of this movie being like, you can give me Sue Storm and as many. We know there's some other characters that'll feel that way within the MCU, but you're going to walk out of this movie being like, you can give me Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm as much as you want, and I'll be happy with it. So that was my exclamation point. As we said, we think Rachel Brosnahan will be the 10 out of 10 for Lois. This trailer just proved to me that Vanessa Kirby will be the 10 out of 10 as Sue. Although, of the effects, the Invisible Woman effect was probably the one that I was like, I need to see this scene a little more. I was a little jarred by how they showed her kind of phasing in and out. And I was just like, I need to see the whole set piece to understand how this actually looks. It looked a little like it could be good, and then it could be like that could look weird too. So I'm not totally sure how that's going to be.
And I'm fine I don't think it's going to look whack. What I do think is going to show, and which they did in this trailer, the effects of light bending and her manipulation of her in terms of the spectrum that you see when in certain shots that you see the electromagnetic spectrum, which is dope. So they put in some scientific aspects to it. I was watching New Rock Stars and they pointed out something. Is she pregnant in this?
Is the actress or the character?
The character.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Maybe. Okay.
She yes. Is when she walks in the kitchen with Reed and they walk into the dining room.
Okay.
There's a little waddle to her.
Okay.
And you can tell she may look like she have a baby bump. It's interesting because, again, because of the story that we're getting, this could possibly be it.
But that was part of the rumor, right? Wasn't Franklin Richards part of the rumor?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would sort of add fuel to that fire. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Johnny.
Not enough to really know, in the sense of the torch looks great. And I wouldn't say like I didn't hate the Chris Evans torch either, to be quite honest, back in the day, because it's 20 years ago. But I like the look of this. The one scene we get, the flying. See, I thought the flying here was good. This was some of the better flying I thought Marvel has done. I've complained about Marvel flying physics, but I like the behind the torch at a distance. That felt good to me. So I like
that one shot of him jumping off and you fly and you going with him. Yes. That was dope. Now I watch more stuff and I think about, how did they do that? It had to be a drone to get that shot, that continuous shot. So that's going to be interesting to see how the flying, a lot of it, his shots in this trailer for Johnny Storm were dope.
Yeah. So I think that looked good. We didn't get enough of Quinn as Quinn to know.
Yes.
Look, Johnny, like Chris Evans does capture a little bit of the Johnny Hothead essence. And I think you're going to see a version of that here. I'm optimistic because we saw Quinn be pretty twisted and diabolical in Gladiator 2 that he can kind of do something fun with this. But we didn't get enough to really know how he's going to play Johnny when he's not the Torch. So it's more excitement for the Torch. I like the Thing. I got to be honest. I will say there's a cheeky... This is like good Marvel humor to me. That everybody knows Ebon Moss-Bachrach now from what? The Bear. So what do they introduced Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing talking about? Cooking. Food. I was like, I get what you're doing, and I like that. It was funny. I agree with you on the voice. Like, it's a choice. I think they just want you to hear. And to be honest, it's like, do you think the Tim Story Fantastic Four, did they help or hurt Ben Grimm in that movie by changing Michael Chiklis's voice to be this very raspy, rocky type of delivery versus how Michael Chiklis actually sounded? Like, I don't know that was a win for everyone that they did that.
I understood the reasoning because of the shot that they showed of his organs.
Yeah, fair.
That's why I thought it made sense for his voice to change, because if he's all rock, then his voice is not going to be the same.
But did it make that voice sound more goofy as a result? Did you take a talented actor's voice and lose it in? I guess that would be the argument for what they're doing here. Is it like Moss-Bachrach has a great voice?
Yeah.
If he's going to play the part, he should sound like Ebon Moss-Bachrach.
Yes. A slight alteration wouldn't have hurt.
Okay.
But let's see. I think what we are going to get in terms of our feelings towards him will be as what we felt, or what the Thing has always been, and it's a lovable guy.
Yeah, that's kind of why I liked it. And like, so the kids wearing the mask, and I was like, that understood to me what the character essence was. Like, he did become this, like, in the celebrity Fantastic Four, he did become kind of like the mascot in some ways that, families gravitated toward, despite how he looked. So, So the physical is definitely improved in the sense of, like, I thought little things. Like, I thought, like, his fingers were much more I know it's a small thing, but like when you watch Chiklis's fingers in the original, it's like he's holding a foam hand. It's just ridiculous every time. And so I was like, you could see him kind of like manipulating like around. I was like, yeah, this actually looks the way like a human, if I imagine a human who was transposed into stone would actually move their hands. It's little things. But so I thought that was well done. We didn't see enough of Thing in action to really know what that looks like. We just see him
running. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We just see him running. And he doesn't look fake while he's running, which I guess is the best thing you can say. He looks heavy. Like, that's what you kind of want to see. You want to be a little lumbering. And I thought that was okay. So I'm pretty satisfied. I know people are still, they're not happy with the voice. Some people are sort of still critiquing the look. I think it's an almost impossible task, right? This is a character, like, if you're truly going to like be 100 over 100 on this, like, I don't know where we're at. So this looked to me about as good as you could expect. And I'm pretty happy with it. So,
yeah. One last thing before we move on with respect to Johnny. I think his performance will be a different sort of character before he becomes the Human Torch. There's going to be somewhat of a transition. So I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. If he's the same all throughout, then it's whatever, right? He's always been a hothead or whatever, or show off. But I think he might play it a little different. Again, they're the Fantastic Four already. So he is who he is when we perhaps first meet him. But when we go back beforehand, it might be a little different, which is what I'm looking for in seeing who they sort of were before the accident and how they are now. So that's going to be interesting.
What did you think of John Malkovich? I thought it was a full single shot right out of nowhere of John Malkovich looking very creepy as almost a wizard.
Yeah. But it got people talking. They did what they needed to do in order to get people to talk about who this guy is. So I don't know, but we'll see.
So the betting money is that it's Red Ghost, who was a Soviet scientist in the space race. Now, let me say something. If it's Red Ghost, do you realize how many memes you're going to get of Teddy KGB from Rounders in Fantastic Four? Because Malkovich has done the caricature Russian accent of our time. Go find clip. Hanging around. Kids got alligator blood. If he pulls stuff like that in this movie, I'm telling you, it will go viral. I don't care if he's in one scene, but if he is playing a Soviet scientist, it is on. So I just, if that's why they did that, I think that's brilliant. And people are going to be are going to lose their minds if he pulls that accent out. But just be on the lookout for it. So.
All right.
And the last thing is Galactus. What's your? This is something you have crusaded about for years, ever since the Cloud disaster. So this is the first shot of actual Galactus.
Yes, previously we had gotten a leaked shot of what he may look like. It was him looking inside the building.
That was unfinished, though.
Yes.
Yeah, that was admittedly unfinished. Yeah.
Yes. I would have been happy with the shadow shot.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Don't show this dude, yo. Leave him be. Let us be in awe of him at the theaters, not at home separately and people, whatever. Let us see it in the theaters. Just give us the shadow. Give us, when we saw the light, the Independence Day shot.
Okay, I was going to ask you a question about that, but yes, go ahead.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, this is Galactus perhaps coming into the atmosphere or his ship or whatever. Okay, I knew that. Most people, I think, who are fans of the MCU and Fantastic Four knew that. And then you hit him with the shadow. That's it. Let everybody go crazy to go see it in the theaters of what this guy looks like. That was my thought. But I'm happy, obviously, with the choice of making him look the way he was supposed to look.
Yep.
Shame on you, people who wanted to go with this character and gave us a Cloud. That was disgusting, and you should all be fired for that.
So I agree with you. It makes me a little bit scared for the full trailer when it comes in a couple months. Are they going to show him? Are they going to show Surfer? Are they going to feel compelled? Especially because, like I said, the buzz for this was really good, but it wasn't necessarily off the charts. So will they feel compelled to give you a little more of that action before we actually go to the theater? Now, that Independence Day shot, as you called it, do you think that was a troll shot nod to the Cloud disaster?
I just thought about it right now.
I was like, are you guys doing a little mea culpa? We hear you. We know what this has been. So we're going to give you that shot. And then we're going to give you the helmet to let you know it's not that.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be somebody saying, is that a Cloud? I'm pretty sure. And it's and good for them to do that. It's sort of the shot of X-Men when Cyclops said, "What are you expecting? Black leather suits?" You know,
so yellow spandex. The original.
In the original, but in the cartoon.
Oh, that's right. He brings it back around.
Yeah, exactly. So the MCU with their characters are winking at us by doing these things, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, agreed.
So let us know in the comments below what you guys thought of the Fantastic Four trailer. Are you getting excited? Because I know I am.
My kid was fired up. I showed her everything, right? I showed her. So Superman for her is one because of crypto, admittedly. This though, she looked at it, she said, that looks really good. I was like, yeah, could be. And then we'll talk about Jurassic. But yeah, she was kind of like, that looks really good.
It did. So. Jurassic, what is this? Jurassic World?
A Jurassic World Rebirth.
I saw the trailer. Fine, there's nothing new here. Other than we're looking at different dinosaurs, obviously, because they can't show the same ones, right? They can't show the Tyrannosaurus Rex. They can't show us the Velociraptor, even though there's going to be a Velociraptor.
Yeah, we got the claws. We got the Rex, growl. Yeah, so. I
wasn't excited first. I've never been excited after the first Jurassic movie. I've never really been into. I've seen the movies, but I haven't. The excitement for it hasn't been. I'm tired of the. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm done. What did you think of it?
Same. I think it underscored why I think the movie will be still commercially successful because enough people care about the franchise and love their dinosaurs, but it just isn't high on the buzz list. And I think the pitch as it's coming together is you've obviously got, like I said, you see Scarlett Johansson as a soldier. It's like, oh, there's Mahershala Ali. He actually does act.
Hopefully he's in this movie more than 15 minutes. If he's the first guy to get killed off. That's Willie Dynamite.
I think that would be more soul crushing for him than anyone else, given he's like, you can't kill me off because I got nothing else right now. So, that other thing I was supposed to do, they keep stringing me along. But no, I think the pitch, as I understand it, is, obviously Gareth Edwards is part of it, right? You think that he usually gives you something visual. I think what I've started to see in the press after the trailer came out is they're basically trying to mine the original book for scenes that they didn't use in the first movie. So this is the guy who's adapted. So David Koepp adapted the Spielberg Jurassic Park movie. But the book is much more complex than the movie you get. The movie's pretty simple. And so I think what they're doing is they're trying to adapt a lot of the scenes from the book and put those in this movie and kind of sell it to you as like a remix of the book. I don't know how well that's going to work. And I got to be honest, I'm with you. Like, I watched this and I was like, will I see this in the theater? And I think the fact that I even have to ask the question is probably a problem. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, so I know I have to see F1 IMAX the week before. Like, that's a must do. I know I have to see Superman like 5 times starting the next week. And I know I have to see Fantastic Four 2 weeks after that a couple of times. At least, right? So like in my mind, I'm already like, if I need a week off, it's this. That's kind of like where I'm at. Like I'll see it, but I don't need to see it day one. Because to your point, I feel like most of the grabs and the scares and the revelations have already happened.
Yeah. If I go see this movie, it will be to see the performances of Scarlett Johansson, the performances of Mahershala Ali. Who else is in this movie?
Those are the two main ones. I mean, those are the two biggest ones. There's a lot of like up and comers or like people you would know from like other stuff. I can grab the list, but I think the other thing would just be like if the buzz is that Gareth Edwards did something visual, like he did it again, right? Like he did a Creator, he did, Rogue One, or even like Monsters back in the day, or Godzilla. Like if he did something that made people pay attention visually, then I might be like, all right, I got to go check it out. But my kid's reaction was the same, and she's seen Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, the movie. She likes Camp Cretaceous, the show, and she was kind of like. And she recognized, obviously, Scarlett Johansson from Black Widow. And so she was like, so what is this? Like, why? Like, kind of, that was her reaction, was like, oh, she's like, maybe. Like, I was, so she kind of had the same reaction we did, which I think is interesting, right? It's a 10-year-old's reaction to that. Yeah. I
think perhaps also the only thing that got me interested is to see these gigantic dinosaurs and how that looks. But let's see. Let's know what you guys thought about the Jurassic trailer. Was it a teaser or a full trailer?
It was a full trailer. You'll get the commercial at the Super Bowl. It was a full trailer. Yep.
Okay. Black Panther casting update. Ryan Coogler created this possibility. It's hard to step away from it now, but I get it. I just don't. I don't know what to think about what Marvel is doing with these characters anymore. When it comes to Black Panther, when it comes to Blade, when it comes to X-Men. But Black Panther, Brian, what's the latest?
So Nate Moore, who is the lead producer on Captain America: Brave New World, but is also obviously exiting Marvel kind of shortly, you got to pay attention to the specifics. So he was asked about the recast of T'Challa in live action. I think that's notable.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the truth is there's no truth to those rumors. Never say never to anything. But we really haven't had a lot of creative conversations with Ryan Coogler yet because he's finishing Sinners, which comes out this year. We'll get into it later this year, but everything you read online is not true, if for no other reason than we just haven't started working on it, end quote. So that is not a 100% denial. The media headlines ran with it as a denial. That's not 100% a denial. That's a TBD. But I also think that the question matters, because that question doesn't mention his son. It simply says, are you recasting Chadwick Boseman's part? And I think the jury is still out as to what exactly they're doing with the character, right? We said, like, they could just age up the son, and that would not be a recast, technically. So that's why I think you got to pay attention to the real specifics of how they're dancing around this issue. What I took from it that I thought was a modest positive was that rumor running around about they were only talking to light-skinned Black actors. Hopefully this comment kind of puts that to bed, in the sense of, like, they just aren't really working on it that much yet. And as you would expect, like, we were joking about Coogler getting a call while he was finishing Sinners or on the set of Sinners, and it kind of indicates they don't make a move on this unless he says so, right? Like, yes. Nate Moore's kind of telling you, like, this doesn't happen unless he's at the table quarterbacking. So,
as it should be.
Correct. So let's wait and see. But I do not take this as it's off the table. I think it's most likely the son, but I don't even think he's ruling out an alt universe or some kind of T'Challa character resurfacing somehow.
We'll see in MCU 2.0.
Yep.
What's going on with the X-Men now? There's there are a couple of people up for the storm role.
There's a lot in the ether. I think we're getting a little warmer on a few things, but there's one big one that resurfaced and connects a lot of projects that we got to talk about. There's actually two, but one big one. So the latest rumor on production, to me, now sounds more realistic. We previously heard they had marked an October 6th shoot in the UK, and I said to you, I was like, that seems, if the Russos are going to run that, ridiculous, considering they're doing Avengers 5 and 6. What we've now heard is they've marked the beginning of a production window for sometime in 2026, with the goal of having the project out sometime in 2027. That sounds to me like the front end of realistic, maybe. So that would get you get your directors and your casting over the course of this year. Michael Leslie gets his script in, hopefully it gets approved, and then they start work on it sometime next year. The Russos kind of shoot it right after they shoot Secret Wars, and then you kind of get it kind of after that. That might be doable. I probably would still say everything will get pushed a little bit again, I think is most likely, but that at least sounded to me like, okay, why don't we just start with the big one? So we know that Denzel Washington is in Black Panther 3 because he told us himself, and then came out and said he had to call Coogler to apologize for dropping that. I don't think Denzel has to apologize for anything really, but that's what neither here nor there. What resurfaced this week is that, because he was rumored, like, is he playing an alt universe Black Panther? Is he playing a father figure? So what resurfaced this week is an old rumor we heard last year and kind of scoffed at a little bit, is that he's playing Magneto.
Really?
And that's the tie-in between Black Panther and the X-Men universe. I have the same reaction you do. This would not be my choice. It would not be my favorite outcome. But this rumor, remember, the rumor that resurfaced before was he was Magneto and Giancarlo Esposito was X. So that has resurfaced again this week.
What's interesting when I watch the X-Men is that you're seeing it when you see them, like, they can easily perhaps assimilate and not show their powers, and you wouldn't get this backlash. But I'm going to just go out and say, like, having African Americans or an African American play a character who is usually another. For me, in my mind, it doesn't affect it. It doesn't enhance the experience, because if you put Denzel as Magneto, he's living in existence that he would live whether he was Magneto or a mutant or not.
Yeah.
And so I have trouble seeing. It's almost like I've seen this before. I haven't seen it with a Caucasian or whoever, and they're being discriminated against by white or black.
So I don't like this choice on multiple levels. So number one is, as we've talked about, when it comes to the ethnicity of characters, I start to have a problem with it when I feel like it fundamentally undermines or alters the path of the character, right? And so the entire premise of Magneto's existence, his rage, what leads him to see the world as he does, is rooted in the Holocaust. That's the entire genesis of it. His family's and his personal connection to what happened to him and them during that time. It is not realistic to have Denzel Washington portray a character with that origin story, which means you would have to erase the Holocaust origin story of Magneto and probably give one rooted more appropriately to Denzel's portrayal. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. I don't think that that's helpful to the characterization. So that's number one. I think you are, in this case, no different than it would be like I said, no different than it would be like if we're, somehow recasting or redoing Black Panther and somehow making that character, I don't know, American by nature. Like, it's not. It's not. It's Wakanda in Africa. It's like, that matters. Yeah. You can't take it out of there without changing the whole entire DNA of the portrayal. So that's number one. Number two is Denzel Washington is 70 years old. He is on record as saying he is nearly at the end of his career. Yeah. I think it's unrealistic to expect him to take on this kind of role, which would require 10, 15 years of work, and then ask him to find a portrayal of Magneto that is truly, truly memorable. And I actually point to Gladiator 2 as evidence of what I'm talking about. You and I have kind of now been validated a little bit by the Academy. We were on the island of, he's not that good in that movie. Everyone was saying like he was a shoo-in. Remember, that was a shoo-in for the third Oscar. He didn't even get nominated.
As he should not have.
No, I agree with you. We knew this.
But this is...
If anyone had an excuse to get a fraudulent Oscar nomination in the twilight of his career, it would be Denzel Washington. But not for that portrayal. Yeah. And my fear is that he will bring that to Magneto. And he's going to basically play Magneto with a New York accent. And he's going to be Alonzo Harris. And he's going to just... And I'm like...
He's going to be Denzel.
My point is that Denzel at this stage of his career hasn't shown himself to really want to be anymore the Denzel of the Malcolm X, He Got Game, Philadelphia. That's not really what he wants to be at 70. And you know what? More power to him. That is not a critique on my part. He's earned the right to be the equalizer as much as he wants and just have fun and enjoy and play and do what he wants in the twilight of his career. But that's not what I want in my Magneto. Magneto ain't in no twilight.
Yeah.
This is the start of something. And like, I really enjoy Fassbender because he was trying to find something unique in his portrayal. I love his emotional beats. Do I love everything he does as the character? No. I actually think the animated version is still shouts to, all right, rest in peace, David Hemlin, who was the original voice, and Matthew Waterston, who actually did a great job of updating that voice in X-Men 97. That's still the best portrayal. But I like what Fassbender tried to do as sort of a younger Eric Lenscher and giving you this sense of gravitas and this sense of conflict and this sense of he's not all bad. Like, he really does have these motivations that are just and virtuous, but the way he sees the world is so is twisted and scarred by his own experience. Like, I just don't know that Denzel at 70 is giving you that in a compelling way anymore. So I do not want this, and I actually don't think it will happen because of his age.
It's hard. I think with Denzel, you let him work. With a character like this, there has to be some direction and sort of the performance that you want to exude the person Magneto is from the comics, from all of his iterations.
It's also not a decision you can make in a vacuum. Like, his relationship with Charles is critical. So if you're going to have, so then you're telling me you're going to have 20-something X-Men, but you're going to have grandfather age X and Magneto? I mean, that's pushing it even beyond what the Bryan Singer version did, which everyone was an adult, basically. And then you had McKellen and Stewart were older. Yeah. But like, they have to be peers. That's how they connect. You can't have so you're, on the one hand, you're rumoring, like Harris Dickinson for Cyclops or whatever, these 20 to 28-year-old actors. I don't think you can have a 70-plus-year-old Magneto as their foil. Like, that feels weird to me. So I don't know. I really hope this is not true. I don't think it's true, but it did resurface this week.
For me, my choice would have been what I had said previously. Denzel Washington should be the guy to usher in the new Black Panther, give him the motivation, whatever it is, to lead us to this new Black Panther. But instead, they just want to put this guy in villain roles all the time now, and I just don't see it. I get it. Ryan Coogler, you want to work with Denzel and you want to put him in your movie, but don't just put him in the movie because you just want to work with Denzel. Give him a real purpose other than him being a villain and changing a character that doesn't need to be changed.
That's fine, but don't make him Magneto. I don't want to see that. More interesting among big name actors rumored for the X-Men reboot, and this one I actually could see. Javier Bardem as Mr. Sinister.
Here is my reference to what I was saying previously. The Mayor Humdinger type of character, right? And Mr. Sinner is obsessed. Obsessed with the Summers.
Yeah.
And in the X-Men, the animated series, we've seen instances where he's been treated like a tool and he runs off when he gets hurt. You know what I'm saying? Javier Bardem is a excellent actor. And he is a performer that you would be willing to pay for to see because of how good he is. And this choice, I think, is excellent. My only concern is that they turn him into that Mayor Humdinger type of character. So it'll be interesting to see his performance. Not so sure how this will I'm not so sure if it'll end with a satisfying ending for this character.
I'm interested only because Bardem's range has shown us he's innovative when it comes to this stuff. So his villain turn in Skyfall is epic, and you don't see it coming until you get that first tracking shot where he's talking to Daniel Craig kind of tied up, and you're like, and he, and that's a legendary scene now because he did it in one take, and it wasn't totally scripted. It's just him riffing and like being this character, and it's totally out of left field, and it works brilliantly in that movie. But then you see him in like something like Dune, where he's kind of like this like almost religious fanatic, kind of hamming it up in an almost comedic way in the desert, and you're like, this guy can kind of do anything. Like, so it just made me excited because I was just like, okay, so Nathaniel Essex, we've never really seen him in live action form, but he's got a good bit of crazy to him. And I'm like, I think Bardem has a good bit of crazy to him. And so I'm like, this could work. Like, this could be interesting. So I'm all, and we know he was the first choice to voice Galactus. Now that apparently didn't work out for scheduling reasons, but he was the first choice. And I think this would be actually a better outcome for us if he winds up potentially bringing this character to the screen. And I like it also because it's not a character we've seen. I like it when they kind of like, hey, let's go into the library, get a big villain who we haven't seen before, as opposed to just recycling all the same villains that we've seen in the previous X-Men iterations.
Yeah.
So
in the X-Men the animated series, they even did an episode on his backstory. Because, why is he obsessed with them? Why is he so obsessed with this genetic experimentation to build or to create the ultimate mutant? Because it turns out if you don't show his reasons for being obsessed, the performance will be great because it's Javier Bardem. But will the character not be as impactful for the future or for that movie? That is my concern.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Last one, and there's other names floating around for the X-Men cast, so people can Google that. But the last one I want to talk about, which is notable, is the Wolverine Cap connection. So there is a report, and we will find out, obviously, in a week's time here, that in Captain America: Brave New World, they will introduce adamantium, and that you will encounter the new Wolverine. That those are separate rumors, but they're both on the table. So adamantium sounds like a pretty high probability because I think Nate Moore's even referenced it, that it's coming. But there's still that, like we saw with Deadpool and Wolverine, there's this circulating rumor you might even be introduced to the new Wolverine in that movie. So anyway, but in any case, Cap 4 is being used as a staging ground and a bridge to get you to the new Wolverine in the new X-Verse. So what do you think of that linkage, I guess, would be the question.
There was I think a leaked, or it was in a trailer where Harrison Ford's Ross is introducing adamantium. Again, there are certain things that you just wait. You giving us that sneak peek into adamantium by showing that scene of Ross introducing adamantium just seems to me like here's something to perhaps get you more interested in this movie, rather than let people go into the movies and be like, because what you're going to hear, applause. Yeah. You're going to hear like oohs and ahs. Now that you do that beforehand, it doesn't give you that same effect. It does. I just wish it would have waited.
I think they are also using adamantium as a political tool within the MCU because I don't mean politics are politics. I'm saying within the politics of the MCU, because Nate Moore said, I'm sure Wakanda will have an opinion on the arrival of adamantium. So that very clearly to me is sort of saying they want to use the material opposite vibranium as a source of tension, if you will.
Yes. Is
probably the one thing that feeds again, I don't think Denzel's playing Magneto, but Black Panther 3, which they said they haven't really worked on yet, is going to have some linkages to the next new X-Verse. I think that's kind of also, to me, like a real signal. Because remember, Nate Moore's leaving Marvel, but he's still producing Black Panther 3. So I think he's kind of telling you, like, we're planting this seed for Wolverine, we're planting the seed for the X-Men, but we're also planting the seed for Black Panther 3.
Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. I mean, we've seen it in some of the trailers already. The latest trailers. I mean, I think we pretty much seen this whole movie.
I've stopped watching material for
Yeah. I haven't even watched there's been some clips that have been released. I haven't even watched. I'm done.
Yep.
But let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of this reveal and the usage of adamantium. We have been getting the trailers that have pointed towards Harrison Ford Ross stating the very thing that you mentioned about this being a power struggle in terms of we need to get this fabric or we need to get this material before anyone else does get it. It was the same sort of thing with vibranium, although this was harder. Now they have to, it's almost like deep seek and chat GPT. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's that aspect. I think that's clearly what he's suggesting, is that these are not the same materials, but they share some of the similar qualities. And there's a competitive aspect because adamantium doesn't originate from a Wakandan mine, right? So there's obviously kind of if their economy is built on kind of exporting and limiting the access to this one resource. And now there's another resource that can do some of the same things, if not better things. That's a problem for them. It might force them to have different kind of outreach, right? I get what he's doing. I get what they're doing here.
Yes.
It is a different angle than we've seen.
Deadpool, the creator of Deadpool, you would think they would show some sort of kind gestures here. Open, hey, come in and check this out, whatever. But they seem to treat comic book creators like they had nothing to do with it almost. Our success has nothing to do with you. And who are you anyway? Sort of. This is the sort of treatment it seems like these guys are getting. And if you Google it, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff of how the creators have battled with the new creators of these films. And, it's always about money, but it's also about recognition and being, I guess, treated fairly. Rob
Liefeld says he has cut ties with Marvel following an experience he felt was, quote, meant to embarrass, diminish, and defeat him. Explained his problem started in early 2023, related to Marvel making the decision to change the crediting on Wolverine and giving co-creator status to editor Roy Thomas. So he was mad about that. And then he asked for a special credit. This is Liefeld, asked for a special credit on Deadpool and Wolverine. He said he did not ask for money, but he inquired about access to the movie's premiere and other opportunities, to which he said, Marvel's creators has never been their strength. Without the worlds, the characters, and the concepts we create, in this specific case, the world of Deadpool, there are no films to shoot and no blockbusters to distribute. I am not the easy button at Staples. I am the human imagination behind it all. Comic book creators cannot continue to be relegated as afterthoughts. This is easy to address. Unless I reach out to address it, it will never manifest, end quote. Marvel never replied to his message, he said, and he was allowed to attend the premiere, but his family was not invited to the after party. And as a result, he said he felt snubbed because Kevin Feige was standing near him on the red carpet, saw him, but never acknowledged him. And even though he posed for professional photos related to Deadpool, Wolverine, and the creative team, he was later told by his publicist that all the photos that he was in were deleted. So then he added, Kevin Feige does not treat comic book creators well. That is my personal experience, not so much as a single handshake. Classless, end quote.
I mean, if it's his own personal experience, then I don't know, for him to say that he doesn't treat comic book creators in general well is kind of, but I can see that being the case because of all the stuff that we've heard in the news about them not getting a fair shake or being treated differently. I know that perhaps, here's the thinking. Kevin Feige and them have created something massive, right? I believe it would probably be hard for him, not hard, but it would be an afterthought to think about the guys that created it because you weren't involved in the creation of these films. You created them. You did a comic book run. You did all these things. Fantastic. But in terms of the success that Marvel has had, it's kind of separate almost.
Yeah.
But I get the extending that, I guess, I would say olive branch of come hang out on set to see what we're doing or come to the after party. That treatment of respect and because you were the genesis of these characters, I would think there would be some sort of relationship that treated these guys well, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, this one is a little bit nuanced, right? Because the first time we've really heard this argument was about money.
Yeah.
I think it was, right? It was about the creators wanting royalties for the work being adapted, even though Marvel had the rights, right? Disney, they own the rights to it, right? So this one is much more about kind of treatment. It's different, right? Everything he's listing here is about kind of like, I wasn't expecting you to get paid. I just wanted to be in the spotlight as the guy who created this in the first place.
The next Stan Lee.
And I felt like great now. And I felt like I wasn't given my due for what I contributed creatively to this being successful? That is a different question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's like, it's easy to read this as like, why are you being so petty about an after party? But on the other hand, I'm like, why is Disney being so petty as to exclude, like, what is it to them? It's not, if it doesn't cost them anything, why wouldn't you just invite them to everything? Like, that's what, so that one, I'm kind of like, I kind of see his point of like, you're almost going out of, you have this $300 million movie that you are promoting and building, and you're taking the time to kind of block me. Like, that's kind of small. Like, why? Like, what's the point of that? Like, so I kind of see his point in this almost in some ways more than the money, than what the right royalty rate is on the money, because he's not really asking for anything that would cost Disney anything.
Is the fact that they have to add him to the list of people they have to cater to almost.
You might have hit on something with the Stan Lee thing, though, and I didn't really think about this, but because Stan Lee became this larger-than-life single figure, justifiably so, right? There probably is jealousy, don't you think, among the rank and file of the creators, because Stan became like, he became the cameo guy. He became like his own emoji. Like, he became something of an institution after having obviously earned it with his writing. And I think a lot of these people are like, but I wrote too. I wrote things just as valuable or as profitable as Stan did. And I'm not necessarily asking for everything Stan got, but like, I should get some of that. I think that I never really thought about it from that angle, but I wonder if like the Stan Lee thing becoming what it did actually has thrown gas on this fire.
Of course. Of course. Why wouldn't you be? Yo, I created that joint. Look at all, and I'm here. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that dude in Harlem Nights.
So when I see you guys with the fancy suits and cars and nice houses, and I'm living in a fucking hovel, I mean, that bothers me.
You know, it's where's my sort of like, not kickback, but treat me right, yo. I'm not doing anything bad to you guys. And you've made billions of dollars. What does it cost you to get some guy to pay him to treat me nice?
Yeah.
To show me around, to walk me around, to give me me sitting in the corner eating breakfast. I don't know, in one of your movies. I don't know, something. I get it. I get the perspectives.
Yeah.
But because here's the thing, if you do acquiesce to those things,
it's everybody.
Yes,
you got to do it for everyone. Yeah,
you got to do it for everyone. And some people want, you give them a hand, they reach for the arm. You know, then you worry about that. So Kevin Feige's, those people's thought process is like, let's not even deal with it.
Yeah, the royalty thing is a different question. And as I said, like, legally, Marvel owns rights. And when we first talked about this, I was pretty in favor of like, yeah, they should. They give them something. But then I was like, this discussion is actually more nuanced legally, right? Because works of literature have been adapted and continue to get adapted all the time. There is clearly a precedent and a standard fare for how that gets dealt with. Comics are probably not going to be, and probably don't deserve to be, much different than that. So I was trying to think like, okay, so we're talking about Jurassic Park. Like, is the Crichton estate, do they get kickbacks from Jurassic movies that are made now that don't directly cite anything he wrote, but obviously use ideas that he created? I would love to know I don't know the answer to that. What is the answer to that? Because I guarantee you whatever the legal answer is to that has an impact on how Disney and Marvel does business, because it really isn't that different, right? It's like, if I take Wolverine out of an X-Men comic, but I don't use any specific X-Men comic to inform my story, what exactly do I owe the writer of that? That's the real question. That's why I kind of bring it up. Like, there's also like, there are certain estates, as we know, that have much tighter reins on their IP, like J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter, right? As we said, like, that's a great example. You can't touch anything in those books without paying her. But that's because she set it up that way legally.
Yeah, in the
she's powerful enough and popular enough, right? These comic book creators individually never had that kind of power. So it's like, if they don't have it, then you're getting into the gray area of what is the moral thing to do, or what is the nice thing to do versus what is the legally obligated thing to do.
And there's a difference. Treat me nice, and then all right, now pay me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You owe me. Literally. Yeah.
I mean, again, George Lucas, Tolkien, all these people that created these works, they're celebrated. They're the guys that people come to. What are you? And these guys who created these guys a long time ago, Deadpool, whatever, right? They're not sought after. They're not treated nice.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's a tough thing. Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of that. Is it touchy? It's not a right answer for this. It's just a way about going about this. That's the conversation. Blade, Armor Wars, Moon Knight, Loki updates.
Yeah.
Blade, Brian.
Kind of a.
It's like, what? I don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. I don't care. Oh, you got a new writer? You got a new director? Who cares?
But they don't. That's the thing. They don't.
Yeah.
The story is not that they have a new writer and director. The story is that they're looking again for a new writer and a new director, which means the Eric Pearson came in. Remember, that was the latest story. Eric Pearson came in. He had worked on some other Marvel stuff. And like people were like, all right, he finally got the script to a place where they wanted it to be. And now we find out they're looking for a new writer again. So this would be number 8, I think. And they're looking for a new director. And now they want the main villain to be male, but they still want Lilith to be a villain, which probably to me means they still want Blade's daughter to be in the movie. They're just hanging on, man. They're hanging on to these things that go nowhere.
They're making it more difficult to get somebody because they're going to get somebody that needs money, who needs their start.
Yep.
Not anybody, not necessarily credible, but not anybody that's working or that got projects on a list. This will not be one of them. So you are going to, if we get somebody, it's going to be somebody up and coming who's done some great stuff in the past, some episodes of whatever, some videos, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anybody up there to want to take on this project because of the history. And who knows what the behind the scenes has been about this.
But this is the in sports where it's like the owner is trying to bring in a new general manager and a coach and then says, oh, by the way, you got to keep the quarterback. You got to keep the playbook. What good GM and coach is going to sign up for that? Right? I've said it before. It's the Bill Parcells, right? They want you to cook the meal. They should let you shop for some of the groceries, right? This is, you can feel Marvel's constriction of this thing they just want to hammer through with this particular Blade project, and they won't let it go. They won't let it breathe, and they won't let what seems to be a pretty easy thing to get off the ground actually be a real Blade movie. That's everything I see in every version of this that makes sense.
It's almost, and it's not fair to say this, but it almost feels like, they want this to fail, They want this to fail.
Well, that would be an interesting angle. The buyer's remorse on Mahershala Ali as Blade, and we're going to make it so toxic that he walks. Like, that would be an interesting subplot to this, if that's what's now happening.
Because you came to us, and we weren't even thinking about you. It sounded good at first. Kevin Feige, under pressure from a 2-time Oscar winner, telling you, I want to be Blade. And you're like, yeah. If I recall verbatim, that's what you said. And now you've painted yourself into the corner that you're now going to make it difficult for him to want to even continue or age him out and not do this project the way perhaps he may want to do it. Because I don't think Mahershala Ali just pictured himself as Blade. He had something specific in mind, maybe. And what he wants to do versus what you want to do, there's not a happy medium here.
No,
there is.
It doesn't feel like it.
I think hopefully Mahershala Ali doesn't go into this feeling similar to Wesley Snipes going into Blade 3 and not giving a damn. And having that set be toxic, as you know.
As Ryan Reynolds has told us, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they finally buried the hatchet. But yeah, so it feels like we are where we've always been. They are going to spend some more money or light some more money on fire in an attempt to try to make some version of Blade that I don't think we want to see. And that sort of way overcomplicates the legacy of the Daywalker. But anyway, that's where we are with that. Armor Wars. Nate Moore, very diplomatic, but I think confirming what you and I known and have suspected. He said, Armor Wars is not my project, to be honest, but I do know as Marvel continues to go through this phase, we want to make sure whatever we're making is awesome. So that means we had to slow down some things that were on the front burner, end quote. It doesn't mean we'll never make it, but it does mean we have to be a bit more considered so that every time out, the audiences are guaranteed quality, end quote. That is a very diplomatic way of saying this sucked in every form. That's basically what he's saying. And it's not in any way something that they're prioritizing. This is not happening.
It's not on the list, man.
No.
And I can't wait because I'm gonna give myself a pound on the back for something else. We're gonna quickly touch on DC just to say, like,
yeah,
obvious, right?
Yeah.
But again, nobody cares. Nobody has cared. Even when it was first announced, we did not care. We just saw it as, okay, if you want to give me that, we'll take it too, right?
Yeah.
But Armor Wars is not something that we want to see.
No.
Just say it doesn't exist anymore. We've left it. That's it. It's done. But you keep on what? For what reason are you telling us that Armor Wars is on the back burner for now? Whatever. For now, forever. Let's make it.
Nobody has anything bad to say about Don Cheadle as an actor, right? But like the reality is, when you have a linked universe, the heat on characters and projects becomes linked too. And the reality for this is you could argue there was never so much steam for it from the beginning. But when they announced it, the world thought streaming was going to be everything, right? These companies were throwing unlimited dollars. Just give me everything on my captive streaming service. I don't care how much money I lose in the process because I'm going to make it back through subscribers and price increases down the road. So Marvel was also super duper hot. So I get it. They're like, give me anything. Like, you want to do a character about Rhodey? Great. Times change. And the reality is the one shot they had for this to really become anything was Secret Invasion.
And you blew it. You blew it.
That's it. Right? It's like we see this all the time.
You blew it.
That tanking the way it did ended whatever path there was for this project, what was left of it. Then I don't think there was much left, but whatever was left died with Secret Invasion. It's no different than Black Adam was supposed to start all these supporting characters on their path to right. It's like movie fails. You don't get the Hawkman spinoff. That's how this works. That's how this works. So it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I think it confirms it's not happening. Two things that are happening. Seemingly, a Moon Knight update out of nowhere that they like a season 2 plan, a season 2 villain. So there's movement on this. Mm-hmm. I had thought we would only see Oscar Isaac again in sort of the context of Midnight Suns, but it sounds like they might actually try to bring this back as a show. Mm-hmm. What do you think if they did a Moon Knight season 2? I think you and I probably were in the upper echelon of how much we enjoyed season 1 in retrospect. Yeah. Not saying it was a classic, but I think there were certain episodes of this we were legitimately talking about and interested in. Mm-hmm. And they obviously left it in kind of an interesting place.
Yeah.
What do you think? So if they, it was just a rumor that they were going to bring in Raoul Bushman, who was Mark Spector's mercenary partner, as the villain or antagonist for season 2, in addition to Oscar Isaac's more murderous alter ego, which I guess we're going to see in season 2. But just the idea of it, if they were to do Moon Knight season 2, where's your excitement meter for that, given where we left season 1?
I'm okay with it because of how Oscar Isaac performed in that show. I think he was fantastic in it. He was, the way he transformed into each of these characters was just great. And we didn't get a glimpse of that murderous one. And so, yeah, there is interest to see what that's like. Again, I'm going to repeat myself by saying this. Moon Knight missed an opportunity by not showing us, or showing a montage, doing something to show us how he got out of those situations when he blacked out. That would have been a twist, like at the end of the season, to show us how he did that. But they, I guess, again, blew it. But still, I would be interested in seeing that incarnation, the murderous one, how he gets, how he does his thing, how he transforms, whatever it is. I want to see what story they do with this. Yeah, I'm interested. Am I excited about it? Not really. Am I interested? I'll definitely take a look.
I agree. I think the show did enough. See, that one, bad finale, full marks. This was a classic Marvel, like, turned an interesting concept into sort of a kaiju spirit slug it out in the finale that was not great. But the Isaac performance, and then where they leave him, like where he winds up in the back of the car, I could go with it for another season. It's one of those where it's like, there's enough here to, I think you could improve it, level it up, focus on the things, as you said, maybe that we didn't get in season 1, that could make a worthwhile season 2. So I was pleasantly surprised, actually, that this came back onto the radar. And in my mind, I was like, you're spending all this time on the Vision series or the, Ironheart stuff. And I'm kind of like, I mean, yeah, if you're going to do that, then I'd almost rather see this, where I felt like there was the makings of something interesting. So that was notable. Was ended on a good note for Marvel. Well, sort of. Loki came up as a character, kind of like, so what? Like, what now? Right? He's at the throne at the end of time, and then someone floated like, well, he's been involved in the Avengers movies. Like, would they involve him in Doomsday? There's a scooper out there saying 2 things that I thought were interesting. So the specific answer is not right away. No, may not be in Doomsday. But number 1, something of Doom's machinations may have an impact on Loki's stay on the throne at the end of time. And that B, Marvel's ultimate goal is for Thor and Loki to reunite.
That's all I want to see.
With him there, like with him on, that's it. So I was like, okay.
Take my money. Here, take it. Here, take it. I'm all for it, man. You don't gotta tell me too much about that. As long as you mention Loki and Thor, and we see that, I want to see that performance. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I want to see what that's gonna look like. Either you're gonna knock it out of the park, or you're gonna strike out. There's no in between here. You either gotta it has to be a movie moment, I would say.
So that's good. I mean, it's not lost on Marvel. It doesn't necessarily mean we're getting Loki season 3. This was more a question about the films, and I kind of like that. I'm like, you know what? Pay this off on the big screen. Let's have them have that conversation for everyone to see, not on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Last thing, real quick, opinion on a bit of news that came out regarding Clayface.
Yeah, one little DC note this week.
So the director is who?
So James Watkins is reportedly in talks to direct the Clayface movie. Now, remember, Mike Flanagan, who is a noted horror writer, delivered the script that James Gunn approved. Flanagan is a director. However, he cannot direct it because he's directing the remake of The Exorcist over at Universal. So his schedule does not allow it. So now you have James Watkins in negotiations to actually do the direction.
And James Watkins has done what before?
He has done horror, Pablo. So horror film, Eden Lake. He did The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe. Most recently, though, you would know him as Speak No Evil, the creepy James McAvoy with that family, with like him and Mackenzie Davis. They're in the countryside, and the McAvoy kind of is
where he looks like Wolverine. Yes.
So James Watkins directed that, which was pretty well reviewed and pretty successful. This is a horror guy. So you have a horror writer and a horror director making a Clayface movie. This sounds an awful lot like it's going to be a horror movie.
It's like, what are we talking about here? Because this can't be goofy. This can't be fun. There's a specific way of doing things with certain characters. You can't do things just to be different. AKA Snyder, Batman killing people. You know, there's certain ways you cannot deviate from who this character is and what this character does and how this character looks. If you look at Clayface, this is somebody who's not there to have fun. This is a guy, he's going to scare you. And they are going the route that's necessary. Because again, at the end of this movie, you have to ask yourself or tell yourself, this is what Batman has to contend with.
Yep.
That is the key to every one of these villains that they put out there. If we are impressed at the end of it, this is what Batman has to contend with. And that's all I care about.
Yep. It's fundamentally there are so many things that Sony got wrong, but this is one of the most fundamental things they got wrong in their attempt to build the Sinister Six. Was the whole point of this is the one character. It's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Trying to make us root for and trying to make the Morbiuses and Madam Webs and Cravens of the world heroic in the context of their own film, leading up to Spider-Man then having to take them down, is a fool's errand. Making Clayface the star of a horror movie and making him villainous, but maybe with a grain of, if you want to have a grain of moral dilemma or empathy within that, that's fine. But if he's villainous in a horror context, that means Batman has to descend into that world to stop him. That's the thrust of this.
Hey, the title of this movie has to be Clayface. What else could it be?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be just straight Clayface. I don't think they'll mess around with that. But I think all you're looking for, look, so they're going for the genre horror movie on a low budget. They already said most of the budget's pretty much going to go to Clayface effects. But otherwise, this should be like of a piece with what you see in the horror movies that do reasonably well on low budgets at the box office. And I'm fascinated because you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, this is supposedly going to be in DCU Batman's broader scope in some ways, or at least build a library from which to draw upon for your Batman future. If this works,
it's going to work.
It's going to open up.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what we want. We want to be like, oh, snap, Clayface, oh, snap, Penguin. Like before, I didn't care too much about Penguin, but this Penguin that they gave us, even though it's not set in the DCU universe, these are the sort of situations or characters that you want to say to yourself at the end of the day, this is what Batman has to deal with. And if you want a successful Batman, these villains have to be quite difficult to deal with. And we want to see, not necessarily to draw a similar viewpoint with Thor and Loki, but you want to see that interaction.
Well, I think part of the magic of Batman is not just the test of him physically, it's the test of him morally, right? I mean, that's part of this is a character who lives in the gray area and has to toe the line. But as you said, like the line is so important, right? It's what separates him from this. So, but if you can put more characters that basically are pulling him toward that line and being like, what is he willing to compromise in order to protect the city or protect loved ones or do what he thinks is the greater good? Like that's the dilemma of Batman that's always been interesting, right? I mean, you can't just you can't just pull him all the way across. Then he ceases to be Batman. Now he's true villain, right? So, but that's what makes these characters interesting if they make them truly diabolical and scary and frightening. And I don't know, it just opens up possibilities. And like I said, you're not the other mistake Sony made was they were throwing a lot of money at like their failed projects, right? Like you're gonna take if you want to do this as an experiment. Yeah, it's say it's a $30 million, $40 million budgeted movie. Like that's a worthwhile experiment. You know, you're probably going to make your money back. If you don't make a ton of money, then you're like, all right, the audience just isn't here for this. Maybe we don't go this route. We don't commit to like we're doing 10 of these. But if it makes $200 million on a $40 million budget, like okay,
it's a win.
now we start laying. We look at our catalog in the Rogues Gallery.
But yeah, we talked about a lot. And based on some of the news out there, they're trying to really course correct on certain things. They're trying to make sure that they get things right. Doesn't sound like, Brian, that some of the decision making behind some of these things are quite correct. And some of the things that they've said regarding certain movies is same old, same old. What's the script again? Blade, to say the things that they need to say in order to calm the nerves and the tensions and the throw your arms in the air in frustration, to quell that sort of sentiment. But we got some good stuff coming. Fantastic Four. I can't wait for that movie. The excitement level has certainly increased since the trailer. And real quick, $1 billion, yes or no?
Fantastic Four? No.
So you're still okay? Fantastic Four.
I'm still in the neither Superman nor Fantastic Four make $1 billion.
All right, we'll see. We'll see, because again, although the MCU doesn't hold that much weight with the fans, this movie, because of how different it is and how separated it is, Brian, we got to think about that. We can't lump it up with the failures of recent the MCU has delivered. This is different. We know this is different because they've told us this is in a different universe, different whatever. Is not this world. And visually, tonally, that we perhaps have had about MCU in their hands, what this could look like. We've gotten a glimpse of that. And it's been nothing but the talk of the town since it was released. I'm thinking that we're gonna probably hit $1 billion with this. Maybe. I would say I'm gonna say 800 to 1 billion.
No, I'm under.
Okay. What's your range?
I think Superman will be 700. I think Fantastic Four will be like 5 to 6. To make that club as the first film, there's 4, right? There's only 4 that have done it, I think. So there's Black Panther, 1.4. I think that's Captain 2018. Marvel. Well, as I was saying, so 3 of the 4 occur within a 7-month time period, right? Because it's Black Panther comes out in February, actually 10 months, February 2018, peak of superhero mania, but deservedly so, right? It gets nominated for an Oscar. It's a great movie, makes 1.4. My guess is that would have made $1 billion no matter when it comes out. That's my guess. Captain Marvel and Aquaman both make between 1 and 1.1. You release either of those movies today, they make half that.
Oh yeah. I don't even think they make half. I think less than half.
So that's a bubble to me. That's just like they got that because of that. And then there's Joker, first Joker movie, which I don't really know what to do with that. I'm going to say that probably would have made $1 billion just because I guess the fascination and obviously the awards train and it being R-rated. So I'm going to say that counts. I'm going to say that's 2019, late 2019 is supposed, but I'm going to say that's would have been $1 billion. So really your list is 2. It's Black Panther and it's Joker. I think those have forces behind them that are unique. I think if I'm looking at Superman and Fantastic Four, Superman has the better chance in my mind because of it is the newness of the DCU. It is the uplift of the character. I think people might be ready for, a good old fashioned, rockin' time at the movies or a movie like this. But at the same time, I think both these movies are fighting that fatigue. They're fighting
of course.
the brand mismanagement of superhero movies that's made them less attractive and less successful. And I think that I don't think Brave New World is going to change that. I'm cautiously optimistic on Thunderbolts, but that's not a $1 billion movie. So I just don't think you have a lot of momentum on this genre really building. I think it's on these two movies to turn the tide. And I don't think in doing so, they will make $1 billion each. I think they'll turn the tide through good reviews, good word of mouth, and good enough box office to where people are like, this felt like a breath of fresh air. But I don't see it. I just don't see enough momentum in a crowded marketplace to really get either of these to the 1-1-1-1-2. And the reality is, some of that historically, you needed a couple $100 million from China, and nobody's getting that anymore. Nobody. So you're going to have to do $1 billion the hard way. You have to do it the way that Chris Nolan did it, where like Dark Knight was 50% US, 50% global, and China really wasn't a factor. Like and that was a sequel, right? Like Batman Begins, as we said, that is a $1 billion movie. It made $450 million. Like I don't think so. I think it's going to be on the under for both. I'd love to see it. Look, if we got to the end of the year and they both made $1 billion, I'll be like, something went really right. But that's one thing I'll tell you. If they both make $1 billion, something went really right, and the genre is in a much better place. But I just don't see it.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the possibilities. I'm there because to me, those two films have different other storylines or narratives that propel it to that $1 billion possibility. It's not because it's just a great movie. There are other things that you sort of have to. There are other questions that people are sort of want to ask themselves or ask and see if this movie delivers on all those things. So we'll see. But let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all this, and we'll see you next time on the NerdGen Report.
The show goes on!